I'm joined by the head of the Banking Association, Cas Coovadia. Great to have you with us in studio, Cas.
Good to be here.
So we've seen today the forces that I was speaking to the Minister about. On one side, investors and business capital. On the other side, the EFF, the United Front, protesting about Parliament, saying, no, we don't want austerity. We want a budget for the poor. And he really was in a tough position. Did he navigate well?
I think he did. I don't think there were any major surprises. I don't think he had too many choices. We do need to keep on our expenditure path because we do need to have social expenditure. We do need to improve people's lives. At the same time, we do need to be careful that we don't create an environment where business is not interested in investing, where individuals pay too much tax and therefore individuals start complaining. So I think that the 1% rise in taxes for people earning over 180,000 rand, I think is the best he could do. I think the fuel levy, given that the cost of oil is down at the moment, I think there is some space there. And I think that was low-hanging fruit that he used. The electricity increase, my concern there is that, permanent temporary increases are a misnomer. They get hard-coded, and to me the issue there is that we do need to see better performance from Eskom. We do need to see more private sector involvement in alternative energy, and that's the fundamental issue. It's not the rate increase. So I think that he's done reasonably well. I'm glad he's kept away from corporate tax, because we do need to actually encourage investment. We're not getting enough investment. So generally, I think he's done well, and sure there'll be issues from different sides, but I think that under the circumstances, he's balanced it reasonably well.
Did he make the right noises from a business perspective? Because there was a hope that he would shift the sentiment, that business is being blamed for everything, even though they are the job creators.
Yeah, look, I think the budget is one part of a bigger jigsaw. I think the problem we have is that there's a plethora of legislation or proposed legislation messages that's actually sending out the wrong message. So it's a foreign ownership issue. It's the commercial farming issue. It's a security company issue. There's a whole range of messages and proposed legislation that together is beginning to send out a message that we're not open for business. So I think the budget alone could not actually turn that around. I think what the minister has said in the budget, by keeping away from corporate tax, by encouraging small business, is saying that we need business, and we need to actually encourage investment, encourage business. But I think that we need a more consistent message from government. It's not just from the Minister of Finance. We need a consistent message from government that says that we are open for business. We want investment in this country, because ultimately the noises coming from the sides can only be addressed if we have economic growth. Economic growth is based on investment. We need investment from global investment. And our competitors today are just across the border. The rest of the continent is actually saying we are open for business. And that's where our competitors are. And so South Africa is not a big, keg in the wheel. We need to ensure that we send out the right messages. And I think that the Minister of Finance is doing that. We need other ministers to come to the party.
Well, what would you say to those, you were listening to what Julius Malema had to say, to what Labour would say, that why are we pandering to business? Why are we pandering to the rating agencies? Why are we not increasing corporate tax rates?
Well, it's not a question of pandering to business, and this is one of the problems I have. I think that we need some sort of leadership coming, whether it comes from business, government, wherever, to actually say what's in the national interest here. Okay, it's got to be in the national interest to grow the economy, to grow it in a way that creates jobs, and we've got to talk about that. If there are monopolistic areas of the economy, we've got to talk about that. If that's stopping the growth of SMEs, we've got to talk about that. So I think we've got to have a discussion that says there's got to be growth of business, not just big business, but SMEs, There's got to be growth of business in a way that we have an inclusive economy. We've got to address issues of inequality. But without that growth, we can't actually do everything that Labour and others want us to do. But that discussion, that interaction has got to happen between Labour, government and business. I think we've all got to accept that there's trade-offs along the way that we all need to make. But let's put the national interest agenda on the table, and I don't think any of us are doing that at the moment.
Finally, were you disappointed? We're talking about Eskom, 23 billion, yes, government's going to help, but it doesn't seem to solve this huge funding gap that's closer to 300 billion.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's a question of putting money into Eskom. It's a question of Eskom realizing that it needs to work with the private sector. We need to look at electricity distribution, whether that's effective and whether that's optimal. We need to look at the role of municipalities in all of this, and we need to create the environment where the private sector is able to be more optimal in actually providing alternative sources of energy so that we develop an appropriate mix of energy within which Eskom is one player, not the player.
Thank you so much, Cas Coovadia from the Banking Association.